What's up, everybody? Welcome to COVID Community. I am your co-host, Taylor Gray.
Armond, wake up. What's going on, y'all?
It's been a little minute, and you guys probably already know that we have released a new mixtape, Black Jordans and White Sox 2.
Dose.
And yeah, man, we here for round 2, and whatever we thought 2020 was, 2021 has kind of hit us with a re-up of a lot of emotions and feelings, and it's giving us some space to be able to get at these raps.
Yeah, it was necessary to like really process all that 2020 gave us, and then all that this year has given us in a different way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think to not only address it, but to address it from the place that we address it from.
Facts.
I think it was necessary as men, as black men, as believers, like as creatives, as rappers, all of that stuff had to go in the melting pot. So I'm really, I know I'm jumping the gun, but I'm really excited and happy that it's out. And we're recording this before it's out, but by this time, like, y'all would have heard it. And I already know, like, people are going to connect with this in a very unique, deep way. And I'm just really excited to see that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's good to be able to assess risk, but still forge on. And, try to start the conversations that, we probably don't see being facilitated as much in our spaces. And what I mean by that, just as followers of Christ, really trying to explore different avenues of that life, what it looks like to live in such a way that glorifies God, but still wrestles with our humanity. So before we get too far ahead, like you did mention, a few of the veins that we try to tap into as it relates to the community that we create for one another.
Yeah.
And with that being said, like Black Jordans and White Sox is an intentional presentation. We're specifically trying to communicate some ideas that comes out in the way that we write, in the way that we present everything. And I wanted you to kind of touch on it from your perspective. Like last year, we didn't say anything. We just put it out. And just let it exist. And the reactions or responses were all across the spectrum.
Yep. So first of all, I think the fact that it's a mixtape speaks volumes.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the mixtape era.
Yeah.
So everything from in the early days, so like your Clues and your Kid Capri's, your K-Slays, your Ron G's, Who Kids, all that stuff. But then in the early 2000s, the mixtapes kind of switched from, or evolved, I should say, from not just being DJ-centered, but then they became artist-centered, where the theme was, okay, this stuff is going to be on the album. This is going to be more structured. You got the girl record, the club record, the street record. But then in the mixtape space, this is where you can really say like what you mean and how you feel, and it doesn't have to go through like the corporate. It ain't got to go through the label. In that space, I realized that like in my career or whatever, much of my discography is mixtape based, and I think it's because that is a mentality that I carry with me to this very day.
Yeah, and we can't downplay mixtapes in kind of the culture of hip hop, because there are a lot of artists that are where they are at the platforms that they are currently at because of their mixtape work.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just really interesting to talk about this explicitly. And as followers of Christ, like interacting with church culture is a really interesting thing. And one of the reflections that I have experienced, even since doing the first Black Jordans, White Sox, is the church culture as a whole that engages with Christian rap, if you want to call it that. They don't know what a mixtape is.
Right. Right.
They thought that these were our instrumentals, that we just got some amazing production. And it's like, the narrative of being slept on starts to get a little bit louder. Like, how can these guys be putting together this kind of quality work? And really what it is purity. It's tapping into like the purity of the craft, and not necessarily like having to do big picture strategy in association with a music project.
That's right.
It's really like getting some things off your chest. It's really kind of taking a different approach to even writing. Be more direct.
Absolutely, because then if I'm talking about an album, if this is an album, then we'd have to think about just structure.
Yeah.
I have to say what I have to say in 16 bars.
Yes.
We gotta have a hook to bring this together. We gotta figure out, what are the best guest appearances that would help with, visibility.
Yeah.
Do I get my man who raps really good, or do I get artist X who has, 100,000 streams, because his fan base, his or her fan base, is going to, help our project.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do any of that stuff. I just wanted to say what was on my mind, and I wanted that to be it. You know what I'm saying? And that was one of the spaces that I came from, because you guys have already heard the project. Like, I'm very direct about a lot of things that I have not been direct about either at all or in a very long time. You know what I'm saying? So it had to have been in a mixtape format. Had to be in this format. Couldn't have been any other way. It wouldn't have been right.
It wouldn't have been right. Wouldn't have been real. And it probably wouldn't have been, just to get the third R out of the way, it wouldn't have been as raw as what it is now.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it's definitely, it feels raw. It feels almost sensitive in some ways, like, because you're exposing what you really think.
Yeah.
There's a vulnerability there.
Yep.
It's not just kind of like the cute term transparency, because transparency can be manipulated for different purposes.
Facts.
But just being honest can't be manipulated. It's just kind of like you got to trust the current and see, where it takes you.
And that takes a level of not only humility, but that takes a level of, I don't know if I want to call it confidence, but just like really being grounded in where, not even just what you believe, but like where you are.
Yeah, who you are.
And just even in your, if we want to talk about the Christian perspective, it's like, okay, in my walk with God, in many spaces, these are these gray, nuanced, layered areas that maybe the Bible doesn't directly speak to, or I can't pull up a sermon on YouTube that, help me, famous pastor, what do I do with this information? You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
And it's one of those things where community comes in, where it's like you and I are on the phone talking. You come by the house and, we rap. So like the process of writing only took like 2 weeks from beginning to end.
Yes.
But out of that, we have a 3-hour session, and 2 of those hours are just us talking through layers and nuance, and that in turn feeds what we're talking about, because if I can directly tell you where I am, there's that added life experience that may not come across on the pulpit. You know what I'm saying? It may not, church people may not feel comfortable saying I did this, or I'm struggling with this, or I didn't handle this the way that I should have. And so I wanted to, another one of my themes for this was for people to not feel crazy for being in that space. Like you can get into some of these spaces and you can feel like you are absolutely crazy because the way that I'm thinking does not line up with anything that I hear on Sundays.
Yes.
Or anything that I see tweeted on these carefully curated Christian accounts.
Yep. And you don't trust the church culture enough to really sit down and talk to people about it.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
So it feels revolutionary in some ways to like, create space to go here. But I know people have been waiting for this kind of thing for a long time, and sometimes like in our conversations, some of our frustrations boil over to the fact that, you can't find it, as much. And so it really just builds up to a point where it's just like, well, create it yourself. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And so address it yourself, like, be the change, in that sense. But it's also, it's really enjoyable to do a mixtape because you are like taking away some of the limitations and some of the overthinking as well, because it's just like your instincts in terms of the craft of rap. Like, what you enjoy, you pick a beat that you were inspired by, and you say, what would I have to say over this track, this instrumental or whatever, and, you share it with the world. So this is kind of like one of the last, artistically pure spaces for rappers, for those who enjoy the craft. And you get to hear MCs like speak on things or even like execute in a way that's less contrived, more free and more open. And that also translates to the content, You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I can't emphasize enough that these huge rappers that you see, like, they made their bones in the mixtape world.
Listen, man, T-Pain was a rapper.
Yeah.
And T-Pain put out a mixtape where he rapped over American Gangster instrumentals.
Yeah, man.
This is after
Yeah.
I'm in Love with a Stripper and Bartender. He went back to that and said, no. I need to get these bars off.
Yeah.
Because I'm venturing into this pop space.
Yes.
And I need to feel some authenticity.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, yeah, all of your favorite rappers have run through the gamut of the mixtape scene. All of them. All of them.
Yep. So we need this space, and we need it for artistic purposes, but we also need it for community purposes. So we came together and decided to do Black Jordans, White Socks as kind of a cultural reference to, you know, the way those kinds of fashion decisions play out in culture, like what you see, what you're influenced by, what you typically have observed is people wearing Black Jordans with white socks, but that just becomes a uniform in some sense, and it's a if you know type of thing.
Yeah.
So like we wanted to put people on, like we wanted to honor kind of some of the influences that we've had, you know, and kind of cultivating our own identity, but at the same time introduced to some like elements of culture that, you know, ultimately shaped this whole thing that we're a part of.
Yeah, and it was a statement when Jordan was doing it and some of those other guys were doing it, when the Fab Five was doing it in the early 90s. Like, that wasn't really the thing.
Yeah.
You know, so for Jordan to wear his shoes that were already, you know, controversial because the design was so unique.
Yep.
Then the flipping with the white socks, it was like, it was cool.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And again, like you said, it was if you know, it was a wink and a nod.
Yep.
And so that's really what the overarching title is. It's like, it's a wink and a nod to, it's like Fight Club.
Yeah, and you can be ahead of the curve even with that because those shoes were banned. You know, that colorway wasn't allowed in the institution of the NBA at the time. And so, like, hip-hop culture obviously gravitates towards that narrative. Is to say, like we're actually the ones who are creating culture and breaking through even when the system and the establishment isn't ready to accept it yet.
That's right.
So it's so many layers, but we won't bore you guys with all of the ways we can explore that. We're gonna get to the music. So we got the track list here. We wanna kind of go through each song because we're in a space in society and culture which really gives us an opportunity to address a lot of different things. But first and foremost, we have to be introspective and we have to consider where we are personally.
That's right.
So we start right off with Different Now. What kinds of things did you want to convey in this song? Like when we first heard Champagne Poetry and you know there's a whole lot going on in our lives. Yeah. Like what was something that you felt like you wanted to address? So
it was really the overarching theme, one of the overarching themes of what I wanted to talk about on the album, or the place I wanted to come from was that, you know, since you last heard me on a record, things have changed dramatically. You know what I'm saying? So I am, you know, when part one was out, I was like freshly married, like 3 months in, you know what I'm saying? And so now here we are a year and change later, and now I have a baby. You know, my family dynamic has changed. My church dynamic has changed. My relationship with God has changed. My relationship with myself has changed. And so that was like an overarching theme of this is where I'm at, and some things I'm very clear on, some things I'm not, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think a lot of my experience was like feeling like I had to have an answer, or the answer was supposed to be give it to the Lord or give it to Jesus, submit it to God. And, you know, and to even say what that looks like is a whole other conversation in itself.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, what does that look like? Does that mean, is that an altar call?
Right.
Or is that me like being comfortable and confident in like this skin?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, I'm in my mid-30s.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just some things that I'm resolute on. And I think that that's another overarching theme of where we are is like, I think this is why our experience is unique, is because we're a little older. We got some skin in the game. a lot of things we've done or we've figured out a rhythm and a routine. And so to speak to those things like real OGs, we can do that, but we're still at a place where we can run.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not just waiting on my corner three because I can't, you know what I'm saying? I can still take you off the dribble if I need to. You know what I'm saying? ISO, Carmelo. Like, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, obviously age is a part of the conversation, even as it relates to hip hop. You know, we've talked about how hip hop can age comfortably now because we've got a few generations in. Right. And, you know, what that means for us as believers is also something that we process differently than we did 10 years ago. That's right. You know what I'm saying? Let alone a year ago. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, you know, this has been a fast track year to learn a lot of things, you know, about yourself and ultimately your capacity to serve God. Like, you know, what does that look like? What does that even connect to in our society, in our families, in our everyday decision making? And so, like, the big change for me, it's obvious to you, but my mom transitioned. And it was quick. It wasn't something that I had a lot of time to process. Thankfully, I had already started to explore a therapy journey. You know what I'm saying? Like last year, and Black Jordans, White Sox, the first one was when that was just getting started. Right. And now I'm a year later with all of this other life to now have to like process. So it's interesting. This is the first time or the first space that I've taken to actually write since that event. This was the first song that you wrote.
Yes.
Post that.
Yes.
I remember that. And I remember that was the presentation when you told me, you were like, yo, I'm ready for the first thing to. Yes. You know what I'm saying? And actually that was kind of the theme. Like, just to give people some behind the scenes, was like, we were just talking through like where you were. Yep. And I said, like, what can we do? Like, how can I be your friend? And you were like, yo, I think the best place and the easiest space for me is to rap. Yep. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's, I think it's time. Cause we briefly just talked about like, what if we did a part 2? Yeah. And this kind of like fast tracked it. Like, no, let's rap.
100%. It exploded I guess the need for an outlet, you know, like, and so that's what this became. So different now is the literal sentiment that, you know, I have it deep in my soul. Like, it's all different. Like, everything has changed, like straight up. So it is just a means to communicate that in particular ways, and you know, observations about what has happened and transpired in our world, and then also what does it look like for me as a pastor to communicate, you know, where I am to people that I have a conviction and a responsibility to serve. So like, you know, that's a lot to work through, and I just wanted to. This is like the first go around for me to, like, you know, see if there's still something to say in all of that. Right. So, so yeah, it was fitting that we started there to just kind of like reset the palette and say like, yo, this is
different.
This is different.
If you're expecting whatever you're expecting for part 1, if you're expecting like a connection to that, the only connection is that it's part 1 and it's us and it's a mixtape. Everything else, going back and listening to it, it's like, man, we were so different back then compared to now. Yeah. I think there's an overarching theme of like being settled, even in this like this newness with everything being different. It's kind of like and you address that later on in a particular line, which is one of my favorite lines from you. And I'll get there when we get there. But
and not being afraid. Like, that's, you know, if I were to, you know, emphasize any part of my verse from the song, is like, you know, I'm not afraid to be flawed. You know, I'm not afraid of that, you know. So whatever perception is about what we address in terms of content, like, you know, people agree with it, people, you know, feel like, you know, we're gone off the beaten path or whatever. Like, even if you're right, you know, I don't think you're right in a lot of it, you know, because I don't think you know how to really interact with this kind of content, you know. If that's you, you know, not saying everybody's there, but I'm saying that there's still more to understand. Absolutely. You know, there's still more to explore, and I'm not afraid in you coming to a conclusion that, you know, makes you feel like you can't rock with me no more. You know,
Right.
I'm just not afraid of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I feel like I read the Bible different. You know, like
Yeah.
I see people and humanity in different ways. And I've even talked to my church about how it's hard for people to humanize a pastor. You know what I'm saying?
1,000,000%.
And so like I'm like, look, man, we're gonna humanize. You know, we're gonna actually talk about who we are and what we think and how we're processing this moment. But you know, we have permission to be human.
Absolutely. Yep.
So yeah, that's different now. The next joint, green juice from the garden.
Yeah.
You know, what was in your mind approaching that?
First of all, the song title is an ode to our wives. So we just wanted to like find a unique way to honor them, because
shout out to you, baby girl.
Yeah. So shout out to Liz and Tanika, because they, man, like one of the best things about being married, actually the best thing about being married, especially in spaces like these, like I don't know how I would have processed these last 2 years had I not had the support of like my wife, my partner. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my. End of the day, we can fight, we can disagree on stuff, like we can bump heads, she can get on my nerves, but that's my dog.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to know that she's going to have my back and she's going to sit down with me and help me process this stuff.
Yeah.
Process where I'm at, process things before I talk to you, process things after I talk to you, process things while I'm writing. You know what I'm saying? Like that's important. That's pertinent. You know what I'm saying? So that in itself was that. But as far as the overarching theme, I think, you know.
And she makes fire green juice.
And she makes fire green juice. So Liz has the garden and my wife just makes the most amazing juice. If you see me live in a show, like I don't really have water. I usually have a big thing of like her juice. You know what I'm saying? So, but as far as like the lyrical content, it was just a matter of like aggression, you know. You said it right before the beat drops. I will kick in this door waving the 4-4. Like, no. Like things are different now, right? So there's a level of intentionality and like in your face that we're coming with, and that's gonna exist for a little bit on this project. So get ready.
Get ready. And the beat is If You Know, You Know, by Pusha T.
And that's in the statement within itself. Again, if you know, you know what this is.
Yes, we're going to get to it. We're going to get to these bars. We're going to get to this content. We're going to get to this sentiment, this tone, whatever, man. Like, you know, this is the time to officially welcome you to the experience of Black Jordan's White Sox 2. And to your point, like it is an ode to our wives and the support and community that we both enjoy. Because, I mean, listen, man, one of the overarching themes to even our dynamic, whether it's COVID community, whether it's like these records that we hop on and the chemistry that we have, like this is an intentional statement about, you know, Black men and community.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like there are so many different ways that our image is presented to the world, and to be in a place where we enjoy community with one another, but at the same time, what you just said, we enjoy community with our wives.
Yep.
You know, like to talk about how dope that is. You out the gate, you know, this is first year, this marriage thing in a pandemic, you know, you processing a whole lot, blended family, et cetera.
Yeah.
And this is year 12 for me, you know what I'm saying? And yet, like, there's not a lot of materials out there on the second decade of marriage. You know, like everybody's talking about, you know, that you get out the gate and you're just trying to make it to 10 and then you straight.
Yeah.
And it's like, nah, man, 12 is different.
Yeah,
12,
I bet.
12 is different because mortality starts to come into play, and you know, what companionship even develops into, you know, as you're making decisions with your kids and all of that different stuff, man. So like, you know, it just felt fitting for us to be in that space. Number one, you know, giving that appropriate praise to our partners, man, like who are rocking with us and supporting us through this. Liz is in the garden, like as an urban farmer, man. We live in the hood and we got a big old garden in the middle of the hood. You know what I'm saying? So coming out the pandemic, we have the means to survive, you know, practically with natural products.
Absolutely.
So the bars are the bars though, bro. Like, like we on here really trying to rap, like, you know, Armond gets controversial with the lace fronts. You know?
Let me say this. we talking about statements of black, and I thought about this like, yo, because anytime I let people hear that record, like that's the line that jumps out, like, oh,
1000%.
You know what I'm saying? But it's like, look, I'm allowed to have a preference. I don't say, yo, women who wear lace fronts are trash or they're ugly, or I didn't say any of that. I said my wife has locks. She knows that I'm not a fan of that. Just like people have certain height requirements, body types, financials. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like people have preferences. We're allowed to have preferences. So there's another thing that I have to clear up, and I just have to say this, like, yo, I very rarely like share my opinion on social media. I really do. Like people think I'd share my opinion all the time, and I really don't.
Right.
But like my opinion ain't law.
Facts.
It's not law.
That's okay. Yeah.
And that's okay. And I don't ever posture myself, but for whatever reason, it feels like it's like a hit dogs holler thing. And people are like, well, why don't you, especially now in this this fake cancel culture era. It's like dog, what's good for you is great for me.
Yep.
Rock out. I don't care.
Yep.
Ultimately, I don't have another thing about being older is like, dog, I don't have the space to care.
Yes.
I have space to care. I got 4 kids. I like I'm just trying to rap. I'm trying to do all this other stuff. Like, I don't care about what you do with your space. As long as you're happy and you're not violating other people and you're not disrespecting my space and none of that stuff, like rock out. Yeah, man.
It's a beautiful beat and it's a beautiful opportunity to explore, even the place where we're at. Like, I'm like, man, and I'm bigging up other people who are doing the same thing, exploring the liberties that they have, and also, just trying to work through the community connections that we have that embolden us to be who we are. So
and that's actually articulated through the video as well.
Yep.
We had some of the homies come out and just be there, like because that was important spaces. All of those guys who you saw us with, like those are our real life friends.
Real life
that also helped us during this pandemic.
Yep.
Process this stuff, like unofficial COVID community episodes that we've had in coffee shops and group chats.
Yep. Everybody there was processing their own form of community.
Absolutely.
Like in a new way, like trying to figure out who to trust and how to grow. You know what I'm saying? So that's a beautiful part of it, is that it is real life. It's not staged.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's not just the goons who want to shoot for you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, nah, bro, this is the person who I text, when I'm feeling away.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I can't, like, even in some ways, like there's things that we can connect with our wives on, but then you need the homies. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't make your wife everything.
Absolutely.
And really like put her in that position to burden her in that way.
Absolutely.
Like sometimes you got to travel to another outlet, a provision of community. So
that's right.
So that's green juice from the garden, and then we go right into
my
duck
favorite
season.
song.
So we get to hear from one of our favorite personalities on this record.
First of all, you got to listen to the whole tape because the skits are at the end. You have to, because the skits bring the project together. Facts. Do not skip. Just let it play.
Yes.
But this is one of the few times that the skit is actually at the beginning and throughout the project.
Yes.
Through someone who helped us process quarantine immensely.
Yeah, man.
Dr. Umar Johnson.
Dr. Umar Johnson, man. And national treasure, bro.
National treasure. I love that dude.
Protect him at all costs.
Please.
Like, it's definitely like kind of a third level culture experience to know about Dr. Umar and to appreciate what he brings to the table.
For sure. Because it's very easy to like dismiss him because sometimes he goes left. Sometimes it's not even he goes left. Like it's his delivery, how he says stuff, how he presents himself. Sometimes it's just like, oh, nigga, like get out of here. You know what I'm saying?
But it's black people who understand.
They understand the duality of that because when he drops facts, it's like
it's facts.
Nah, he right though.
It's facts, and so the skit. Before my verse comes in, I had like some reservations and I had to process and think a little bit through. It's not a matter of whether to use or to not. Sometimes it's just about calculating the risks associated with making a certain creative decision.
That's right.
Because, you know, in the space that we're in, there, a lot of times we're put in a position to where we have to explain why we made this decision and whether or not Jesus was glorified. And,
Right.
you know, at the end of the day, you know, sometimes it's helpful and good to just sit with something that makes you feel away or makes you feel uncomfortable and ask yourself why, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then ultimately give the people who are communicating said point a chance to help you understand where they're coming from. So, you know, it just Dr. Umar said, like, man, you know, I don't wear a watch no more. Like, I'm not on white people time no more. Like, that's really how I feel. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not about like somebody else dictating time, or it's not about somebody else dictating narrative or culture. You know, it's like, nah, like I'm tapping into some things that I know we can appreciate in our language and on our level.
Yeah.
And again, this is the whole putting on people to that experience. Whew, got wild. Putting people on to that experience is inviting them in to that voice and ultimately that nuance.
Absolutely.
Because a cultural experience is just that. It's a cultural experience. You know, you can't just say right, wrong.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like, you know, you need to understand how culture works in different spaces.
That's right.
There's a cadence, there's a rhythm, there are things that are said, and you can stop that part and say, like, that part was terrible, you know, whatever. But the full context of it is like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And what we had to say, like, this is an aggressive joint.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like, I'm feeling away type of raps.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I know I got mine off.
Yeah, it communicates, like, even just getting on Dr. Umar, it's like, not only so, you know, white people time means white people time, so people could hear that phrase and immediately get offended because, you know, let's just keep it real, like a segment of people who buy this project are white people.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. So when we say white people time, in some instances, like, white people time means like the structures of this world that we live in are 99% curated by generations of white people. Yeah. So that could be something as simple as the Christian hip hop culture that we, you know, well, for me personally, I was like just grafted and assimilated into unknowingly. Yeah. You know, like, okay, so if I'm doing this for Jesus, this is the community I got to be with. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah. But nobody ever told me, like, no, you don't have to go down that path. Yeah. And during the time that we were rocking, that was the narrative, that was the path. You went through, you know, you getting posted on Rapzilla was the goal. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, and I'm not saying this with any, you know, malice or beef towards Rapzilla, because I'm cool with some of the people there, but like, who made Rapzilla the authority on all things Christian hip hop? Who gave them that title? And that's one of the things that I've been processing this year is like the spaces that we have just crowned people as authority figures. Why? Mm-hmm. For what? Mm-hmm. Why is this person's statement or this person's opinion, why is this gospel? Mm-hmm. Based off of what merit? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, you know, my verse was 10 years of doors being shut, of whispers and, you know, like lots of, I mean, everything I said is what I said. Like, look, people can say, who was Armond talking about on the record? I was talking about mad people. Mm-hmm. It wasn't one particular person. And the minute I got to one person, I jumped to another one. These are real life experiences that I've had. Facts. I didn't have to embellish any of that. And I just wanted to say it. Yeah. It still happens to this day. It's just now, based off of whatever we've processed in the last year, I'm comfortable with saying that. And whoever, however feels away, like, that's just how they feel. It was direct enough for people to know. And I don't have to say names for it to matter, because there's an overall sentiment, and then there's also a direct sentiment where I'm talking to direct people, and people, you know, if they hear it, they'll know.
If you know, you know. If you know, you know. You know what I'm saying? Like, and at the end of the day, aggression is also a cultural experience. Sometimes people feel like just in and of itself being aggressive is evil or wrong, especially if you're a follower of Christ.
Especially if you're black.
And well, that's, but that's, again, we're back to, I'm not on white people time. Like, you can come and get this cultural experience, even the delivery and the tone, you know, it denotes like an aspect of culture, mixtapes, you know, hip hop. Like, you want to say you doing hip hop, you want to say you out here rapping, but you don't engraft these kinds of cultural elements in homage, at least, to where you even get the idea from.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, certain things get said and they get said with a strong tone.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's contextualized. It's a whole person. You know, it's not just the kind of carefully curated person that you want to show so you can quote unquote win people to Jesus. Actually, that's turning off a lot of people.
A lot of people. Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you trying to curate this image and idea, and it don't even come from like who you really are for real, or the environment that you are most comfortable in. And, you know, man, like, at this stage in life, man, I just refuse to let external rules or culture rules kind of dictate the expression of faith and following Jesus at this stage of my life.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So this is one you're gonna have to sit with, and I mean, for some people, you ain't even got to do that. Like, you just enjoy it. And that's another theme that we're going to continue to talk about is, you know, we can say that we're creating new space and stuff like that. Some people have been waiting for this for a long time.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not about keeping folks or risking followings or things like that. Some people are literally waiting in the wings saying, we want more of this.
Yes.
And we want to pay attention to that and actually give space for those folks to feel comfortable and to engage the faith maybe in a unique way.
A new way. And I just believe that you'll meet God in that space.
100%.
I just believe it.
100%. So listen to Duck Season a few times, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, bro, like, there's
look, do we take this time to talk about like some of the language on the album, or do we wait? Because, you know, here I, you know, clearly say something, it's edited out. But, you know, if you're listening to the lyrics, like, you know what I said.
I mean, that's on you. Like, you know, I think language is a huge element that we have to explore.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, we've engaged in this subject in so many different ways, you know, but I'm here to tell you right now, a lot of the people that you look up to from a lot of different platforms in Christian spaces, they're free with their language.
Absolutely.
I'll just say it that way.
Absolutely.
You know, so, you know, the time for being shocked about that, like, you know, we're going to have to move on from that, because particularly for younger people, like, if you're the person who's like, I let my family listen to this. All right, well, let me just tell you right now, unless you are just that homeschool parent that is just, you know, helicoptering around every single way that a child engages with the world, your kid has been exposed to a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Especially this generation.
100%. And
Especially this generation.
And we're not trying to force you to have to deal with things too early, but you do read the Bible, don't you? Like, that's a graphic novel.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So on a baseline level, you're gonna get to a place early in Scripture from Genesis where you're gonna have to explain what happened between Cain and Abel. That's you know what I'm saying? Like, and then there's more stories that get uglier from that point.
Absolutely.
So we're exploring this in artistic content in terms of like how we're actually feeling, and then ultimately how that sounds when we use language.
Facts.
So
Facts.
Yeah. Now I use my words to be honest.
There you go.
So all right, that's Duck Season, man. We're gonna hear more about that later, but you know, we're fine. WCW. NWO. I love this title, bro.
Hey, man.
I love this title.
Ode to one of the greatest wrestling games of all time. That encapsulates such a time. You know what I'm saying? You and I share, you know, random wrestling clips from the 90s or whatever. Like, and y'all know me, if you follow me on any social media, you
Booker
know,
T.
like, I'm a big, and we gonna get into Booker T too. I'm a big, oh yeah, that's right, because he leads this off.
Yes, he does.
And that's such a cultural moment. And what bothers me about when you hear him talk about that quote is how much he distances himself from it. He's like,
it's too late.
I feel bad. Because in the moment, you know, if you watch that, and again, Spring Stampede 1997, if y'all need to know what exact pay-per-view he says that, Spring Stampede 97. When he says it, he puts his hand over his face, and Sensational Sherry just kind of like, you know, pats him on the back, says he's okay. His brother, Stevie Ray, is just like, ain't even realize it, because he going over his promo in his head. He don't care. But like, I'm like, dog, lean into it. You said it.
It's too late.
It was the rhythm of it.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It sounded so natural. It was what he wanted to say.
It's what he wanted to say. That's what he wanted to say. Dog, just lean into it. It's okay. As many people, WCW is more of like the Southern style of wrestling, which means that, more WCW fans were like more racist because you're more like traditional good old boys. So, I know he was navigating that space. He talks about that at length, but, at the same time, like, dog, you just got to stand on it. Yeah. You said it.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
And we thank you for it.
And if you're going to call anybody, a nigga, you call Hulk Hogan a nigga.
I mean, bro, see, that's levels into cultural understanding that, many are being introduced into. So don't trust the first instinct to be offended and then to disengage. You're learning something here. Like this is a cadence. You know what I'm saying? Like none of this stuff shocks a lot of the people that I know. Like
at all.
It makes them laugh. It makes them be like, yo, you about to talk about that. Like, it's because we know already. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is maybe a new experience for some folks or a new experience in making it public. But, that clip is being shared in group chats across this nation.
All the time.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. I laugh. I still laugh to this day. When it came on before the song, I was laughing.
I knew what it was. I was like, yeah, this is where we go.
The content though, like of where we going, this is General's Heart. Is this Benny's?
This is Rock Marciano.
This is Rock Marciano, Benny's OG.
Yeah.
So Rock Marciano, just go to YouTube and do your Googles, do your research. But this is one of those classic. This is the kind of beats that we like, y'all. Like, this is soulful. This is sample. This is easy drum pattern. Like, you're supposed to float on this.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, at least where I feel like where I was coming from is, like just trying to appreciate the spectrum of humanity. You know what I mean? Like, I start off with something one of my aunts said to me is, like, you can't choose your kin. And there's so many levels to that. Like, as Black people, like, we have members of the family that we prefer and those who, are it's kind of complicated. You know what I'm saying? But I know in my family, I was taught like to make sure you make room and make space for people and love them, even though they kind of trip you out and they exhaust you. It's some of those kind of principles that exist in kind of these spaces where you say family, blood, and, all of that different stuff. So you make room for that. I feel like we got to do that in the body. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't choose your kin. It's not about you. It's about what God literally is shaping in terms of community. That's right. So we have to be more open-minded in terms of how we accept one another and the places that people are. So I wanted to explore how that looked for me personally. And I know I mentioned Joseph Solomon's name, but I did that intentionally because there was a huge conversation.
I love that line so much.
That was sparked by Joseph Solomon in terms of what is deconstruction. And I'm not going to get into all of that bag, but at the end of the day, pastorally, I had to address a lot of that, processing that people were doing, and people wanted me to speak on it in my congregation, local setting. I think a lot of y'all live on social media. You think that's what it is, but there's real people who are trying to figure this thing out.
Right.
And they're trying to figure out if what he's talking about is real or true, or are these criticisms legit. And I think in that way, it's helpful to participate in discipleship in that way. But at the same time, like, it's difficult when things are just kind of left unresolved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's okay to explore and to wonder openly, why do I believe this, or what does this connect to in my personal life? Yeah. It's okay to do that. And it's right and it's good, especially if you're positioning yourself with humility to truly get answers.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to make space just for, that application of grace, is to say, like, go ahead and wonder about like what's going on, but don't trust those people who have platforms as the primary voices that dictate to you what it means to have spiritual maturity. You know what I'm saying?
They're trying to figure it out too.
Exactly. And humanize them. Like we just got this instinct to say, like, we got to lift up somebody and they are the answer versus, God being the answer. That's right. And we have to really like be honest about that, be introspective about it.
Yeah. That was the sexiest disconnection from Christianity I've ever heard in my life. But that was like the elephant in the room, right? And I shared that on social media, and I got so many DMs from people that were like, "Are you talking about Joseph Solomon?"
Yeah, man.
Because it was like people were afraid to engage that publicly, because what happens is when this other aspect of disconnection, because we've seen a lot of people distance themselves from, Christianity, or maybe what they would call organized religion, or
in our personal lives.
In our personal lives, and then we've seen it on platforms as well. We've seen people that were heralded and raised up, and we're like, oh wait, no, you're a racist. Oh wait, no, you X, Y, and Z or whatever. Facts. And so I think people from that kind of got to turn inward and be like, why did I lift these voices up? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But it was like, no. Let's talk about stuff like this openly. Yep. It's less about Joseph Solomon disconnecting himself, and it's more about, well, why is this a big deal that this is impacting you so much? Who is he to you in your heart?
And that's the kind of introspective work you have to do. It's nothing wrong with learning from people from platforms, but when you literally are listening to them like they're the voice of the Holy Spirit, and it can literally, it could create all of this confusion and calamity in your life if they're questioning things that they believe and they think, then you have to reevaluate where your stabilization, your foundation is. Like, what's the rock that you lean on?
Facts.
And it's good to do that. We need the honest questions. We need sincere wrestling. Like, we need that kind of stuff. But when it just becomes the message from the platform that this is the apex of your Christian faith is questioning everything. Yeah. Like, that's the trajectory you're on. You're on this trajectory to get to a place where you're more confused than ever. And there's answers available, but, it takes humility. It takes time, to process some of these things honestly. So, we wanted to create space for that, man, because, it's not, while it's good to have, space to think openly about what you believe, it's not good to leave people in confusion. So shout out to him. Like, I hope that, he's got people in his life that, are helping him make some sense of what he believes and how he's processing that. But, the address is more about like the spectrum of people that we interact with in the body.
Absolutely. And that was like the overarching theme of my verse as well. Just even talking about, assumptions that come with, engaging or participating in Christian hip hop. How many times were you asked when people found out that you rapped, like, well, yeah, what do you think about Lecrae? Or 100%. And
you work sound, bro.
And if I work sound, like, literally have that where people would come to the church because they found out, I participated in a church plant, and I was there for 10 years, and I was one of the more visible members of the church. And like, so people would go there expecting to have like the visible experience, like with me, where maybe I was I was preaching that Sunday, or I was, whatever. And no, I was in the corner working sound. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And people were like, because that, I didn't give that to them, or the church that I was at wasn't giving that to them that week. Not to say I didn't do that, but it wasn't a consistent thing. Yeah. Then it was like they left and didn't come back. They didn't want to hear any God, no Jesus, no Holy Spirit. Like no ministry could come from that, just because that wasn't the presentation. I wasn't a part of the presentation. Even me talking about, my wife in our home birth, our natural birth, she didn't have any. And then I say, I think people overshare because they're uncomfortable with silence. You know what I'm saying?
Bruh.
And this is Suge and Tupac in Vegas in the Benz, like right before they hit the strip, and everything changes. You know what I'm saying? This is white folks who eagerly expressed all they're sorry for a year later, and I ain't see no follow-up. I'm fired up.
Yeah, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much to. That's like one of my favorite verses on the album that I wrote, or the project that I wrote, because it was like, I had to make those I don't think I have to explain anything that I said.
Nah.
Because it is what it is.
It's understood. Like,
Understood.
if you know, you know, and if you don't, then, you know, welcome to the experience. So, I just love that space for what we were able to cover. So we go to AT&T next, and we have 2 features on this tape, and we were very intentional about the features that we chose, and also limiting features, you know, that were more strategic than anything. So
want them to communicate.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So this is a brother that's in the city. You know what I'm saying? This was your suggestion, and you know, I hadn't heard him rap, but I've actually known him for a while.
Exactly.
Through a friend. So it's like
we know his brother.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. So I mean, we felt like we wanted to make space for representation, you know, culture in our city, you know, also younger perspectives.
Yep.
And then just high skill level.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Can you rap?
Yep.
You know,
that's what it comes down to.
Because when you rap for Jesus, it's almost like it's presented as if you shouldn't focus too much on your skill. And it's just like, nah, bro, like that's some of that.
Communicating the gospel message.
Nah, man. And I was just having this conversation earlier today. Like, it's not just about function. Sometimes it's about form. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not something, the way it works, it's also how it looks.
Yep.
And, you know, if I get into my pastor bag, like, there's all kind of Old Testament examples of that. But you need to be working on your craft. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to feel like it's a good kind of competitive energy to feel like you got to get on a song and come with your best.
Yep.
You know, and without you saying I'm doing that for Jesus, when you actually exercise that kind of effort and technical skill, you are glorifying Jesus.
Facts.
You know, so it's not about explaining that in your verse and saying, not all the time. Like, sometimes it's just about being excellent. You feel me? Like, you got to be excellent. And then you stand next to other people who are excellent, because excellence stands out.
Absolutely.
You know, so again, I'm not going to get into my, you know, I'm not going to get expositional on y'all. I'm not going to get all the way into the text, but I'm telling you right now, this is part of the reason why I love the Old Testament so much, because there's examples of that. And man, I love Trig's verse.
Trig destroys that verse. And Trig, and let me just clear the air. Like, I've never asked him this outright. I don't think Trig considers himself a Christian rapper. But when you hear his verse and when you talk to him, you can tell that he was raised in a God-fearing household. And I appreciate that so much, because he's able to weave in and out of bars, like I'm rapping, and then he's also like, you know, like really breaking down layers of things that are on his heart. And there's even like there's some worship in there too.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And I love the layers that he brought. I love the fact that I hit him on like a Thursday. Yo, can you get this verse done? Bet I got you. He had it turned in by the weekend. And then said,
shout out to you, my young brother.
And then said, if you don't like it, I can write again. And I believed him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's in that stage. He reminds me, it's how I know I'm getting old. He reminds me of me, where like, I remember those days when I had 9 or 10 rhymes in my head ready for a cipher, for a battle. I was writing just for the sake of writing. I just loved the craft. Yes. And you can tell that Trig loves the craft of emceeing. And I appreciate that. And Trig is someone who, you know, he's a part of the city. And, you know, to me, he is the rapper. If we ever say who is one rapper from Columbus, Ohio to like present, I would present Trig. But I think his talent takes him outside of the city. I think his talent takes him outside the state, the region. I think on a national level, on an international level, he stands with the best of them. You know what I'm saying? He could do that, and at the very worst, hold his own.
Nice.
He's nice,
bro. Like,
that's what it is.
Killed you. Shout out to Trig, man. You did your thing.
Absolutely.
So we wanted to make space for that. So next we got,
everybody can't hang with us.
Nah, man. Like,
everybody can't hang with us.
That's a fact. That's a fact, by the way. Like, you know, you definitely have to think about, you know, jumping on a record with us. So shout out to him, man. He did his thing. He did his thing. Black Schofield, I feel like I got to explain. Like, Schofield is is a Bible. It's not a translation necessarily, but it's a commentary associated with a Bible translation. You know, Schofield did his research and was able to unpack scripture. So people buy Schofield Bibles as study Bibles. And my first Bible was actually my dad's old Schofield Bible, and I still have it. It was like in a leather-bound zip-up case, and it's got all his notes from early in his walk and, you know, stuff like that. So I still have that, like, it's almost as like an art piece, as well as like an encouragement to see, like, you know, somebody's faith walk from the jump, how excited he was about, you know, learning the Bible and all the different stuff. So this record is another one of those ones, bro.
Contrasty.
Oh my gosh, man.
I love the contrast.
And so I'm in a space now where I'm reading the Bible differently, like I'm exploring and appreciating the content in a different way than I did when I first started walking 17 years ago. So I'm trying to communicate my enthusiasm, my excitement with seeing this book as a collection of all of this wisdom and knowledge and instruction and stories that, you know, have enhanced my life. And, you know, I don't know what I would do without it. So I'm communicating, you know, a love for the Bible in an area in a time where people are skeptical about the scriptures and, you know, questioning validity, questioning history, questioning the use. And in a lot of ways, they're legit critiques in terms of America and our culture. Yeah. But, you know, it doesn't take away from me from like what we can appreciate about the Bible and the compilation of different authors contributing different things that actually enhances our spiritual experience, being rooted and grounded in something that has historical credibility in so many different places across the world, and the humility that you have to have in approaching a cultural document in some sense, in that this is translated from languages that we don't speak. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like we need help to even understand what it means, and even some of the translations aren't all the way fully complete, because we don't understand the Hebrew language. We don't talk like that. Or we don't understand ancient Greek because we don't talk like that. Right. So you've always got to approach this collection of letters and stories with some humility to say, like, look, God, I need you to help me understand what's being said here, because 10 years ago I thought it said this, and now I'm seeing it says something completely different. That's right. As it relates to the way that I study it and also my experience in life. Yeah. So I'm all happy-go-lucky on this mug. How was you feeling?
You know, you brought the idea of the record to me, like the concept where you really just wanted to delve into everything that you just explained. Yeah. And so when you said that, I immediately kind of like tensed up, where I was like, oh, that is not where I am. and I remember talking to my wife about it, and I was like, man, how do you think I should approach this? Because my natural instinct, my natural inclination is to fake it. Mm-hmm. And just match you where you are. And
what did I say? I said, no.
And you said, no, don't.
No.
You said, don't do it. My wife said, don't do it. So I'm like, okay. And for whatever reason, the verse just fell in. I was a little worried about it, but the verse just kind of fell into place. And what I appreciate about it is just that.
I love it. I love it.
I appreciate that. You know, it because where I'm at biblically is, like you talked about it earlier, but like some people's foundations was off. And it takes a level of humility to realize that, like, in my walk, I put my faith in some of the wrong things. I put my faith in some people and some voices. Yeah. Where I wasn't as astute in the scriptures as I needed to be, because I had someone else who was, and I just kind of leaned on them. Facts. So now when I'm processing, you know, my experience in that, and I'm seeing, you know, manipulation, and I'm seeing all this other stuff that comes into there. Not always malicious too, because some people just manipulate, or some people take the scriptures really just based off of where they are. And I talk about that later when I talk about people hearing, you know, people thinking it's God's voice, but it's really their trauma. It's just things that they haven't dealt with. So I'm glad that I was able to get that off and just communicate it. And I wanted to be really careful about not being like so anti-Bible, because I'm not, right? Or being anti-Christian, because I'm not. I'm still very much a Christian. I still very much believe in the Bible being the infallible word of God. I believe that. However, Where I'm at right now is where I'm not reading that to get that. And so processing that in that safe space, I was going to say something else I forgot, but processing that, creating that safe space to say, man, you know what? I'm just not here right now. And the end of the verse saying, I expect to meet God here. I met the God of objects. I met the God of stuff. I've met the God of things. Now I'm meeting the God of process.
Yeah.
You know, who can meet me at my honesty.
Yeah, bro.
Like, it's one of those things, like, I have to expect God to meet me here.
Yep.
And that is, again, to me,
and he keeps you there.
It keeps me there.
Yeah.
And
well, I love that you say he keeps you here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the place that you feel like is like, man,
that's what I was going to say, because you hear when people disassociate themselves with Christianity, public figures or whatever, it's always very aggressive. It's always very, I'm writing this letter and I'm like, whatever. And it's like, nah, dog, you just don't understand nuance. Like your experiences, you've had some experiences that have turned you off to this space.
Yes.
But I'm not ascribing God to this space.
Yes.
I'm ascribing my experience to that space.
Yes.
And I'm ascribing God to the totality of my life. And I've lived a little bit and I've visited some places and I've seen some things to know that my experiences, my circumstances, how I think, how I see things, it's not always there. You talked about this earlier in your verse where how I read this 10 years ago ain't where it is now.
Yep.
Same thing. And I rest in the fact that through that transition, like, God is still God. And there's just universal truths about God, his faithfulness, like all of those things. And I'm like, all right, I do know that's true.
Yep.
So I'm gonna just lean on that.
Yeah.
And for God to be like, nah, that's enough. I got you.
Bro, and listen, man, just on a practical note, like there's people who are being introduced to the Christian faith and they're only given pieces of scripture to live a whole life.
That's right.
Of what it means to know God. Like, they don't even have the 66.
That's
like, they don't have all of it. They don't have the resource guides, the commentaries, the study Bibles. They don't have Bibles for sale in their society.
That's right.
And they're living fully formed, sacrificial lives dedicated to Jesus. So, like, even the way that it gets presented here is worth, like, some critique. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like you said, like, you know, I wish I had a therapist at the altar. Like, you know, you had somebody waving their, you know, whatever kind of heavy-handed perspective of scripture, and this is what you got to do, or damnation's on the way. And that's people's interaction with the scriptures.
Absolutely.
Is to say, oh, this is what God is saying to me. You know what I'm saying? And he's saying so much more. He's saying things in the seasons of life that we're reading in these stories, you know, where people are in certain spaces for 10 years straight.
That's right.
40 years straight.
That's right.
Like, they're in spaces of, you know, they're trying to understand what their faith is. They're working through their frustrations, their fears, their concerns. That's what the Psalms are. Like, you know, the book of Lamentations, like, you know, the prophets lived very, you know, they lived lives of suffering, like, and they were complaining a lot. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like you just read this thing like, I just got to get to this mindset and I just got to be. It's just like, nah, man, like, God made the total human experience for us to learn a variety of lessons about who we are and who he created us to be, so that we can be effective witnesses in the world.
That's facts.
And we can't be effective if we always posturing.
That's facts.
We can't be effective if we always out here faking the funk, like, you know, doing your memory verse and you don't got no application.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So I appreciated you being honest. When I first heard it, I was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah,
this is it.
You called me and told me that.
Because you're going to free up people who are there.
That's fact. And the only example that they see is the aggressive, complete disassociation, and they don't see the nuance of, I'm here, but I'm not leaving. I ain't going nowhere.
Man, that's sometimes that's the best part of a relationship. That's like you describing marriage.
Facts.
Is like, you know, can you handle me being here and not leave me? That's a question a lot of people ask in their marriage, is like, you know, am I performing for you? You know, or are we back to the vows, for better or for worse?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So this is a good place to engage with, you know, a wrestling through, you know, reading the Bible and things like that. So Whew, Black Schofield is one of those ones that I felt like was going to leave a lot of reflection. So, Harder They Fall is next, and Black Schofield, by the way, that's Nas. Nobody. That's the joint he did with Lauryn Hill, and AT&T is Jabroni. You know, I forget.
Mac Miller and Migos. Yeah,
and we got to rap on tracks that Mac Miller and Migos was on. So
that's
okay,
crazy. Migos and the Alchemist is crazy.
Harder They Fall. What beat was that?
That's close. That's J. Cole.
Okay, so we get into our social awareness bag.
Well, you do.
I think we both do, because you're offering commentary on what's happening out here.
Yeah, in some regards, yeah. You will make way more direct.
Oh, I definitely had some things to say.
You had some things to say, yeah. And I love your verse where I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm talking about lots of things. Like my brain is very scattered, whereas you come in and you like, nah, nigga, close.
Hey, but
you got right to it.
But I think you know, like it's like the way you even in that, like, you know, is it wrong, or do you just not agree?
Yeah, is it evil, or do you not agree with it?
That's what I'm saying. And to me, like that's commentary on cancel culture.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
That's church culture as well. Things that we ascribe as demonic, and it's like, nah, you just don't like that. Or that's just not for you. And
you can be, you know, it can be said that churches are the author of cancel culture.
Remember you said that, yeah, and that like blew my mind, because it's facts.
Because you can definitely be canceled for just even articulating an idea that's not even fully formed,
or coming to church with a hat on.
You're not allowed in here. Your pants is not pulled up. You're not allowed in here.
You're not allowed in here.
You're not. We got information and messaging that can save your life, but you just got to pull up your pants over your waist in order to get it. Yep. Like, you know,
your skirt is too short. Like,
man,
women catch it way worse than we do in that regard.
You can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. And that's something we have to own. But I just appreciated you bringing that out from like social observation, because you start off your verse talking about the mentality of some of these young kids, because we've been dealing locally here with a lot of violence.
Absolutely.
You know, there's and it's happening all across the country, but our version of it in Columbus, Ohio has its own story. You know what I'm saying? And it needs to be addressed, because we have our own kinds of instances that didn't get national news attention, or it did for a second, but we still got to live with it.
That's right.
You know, we still got to process what that means for us. And for me, like, you know, the whole Black Lives Matter protest movement that started a year ago, you said it earlier, you know, a year later, and there's the follow-up is drying up, or the support is drying up, and different narratives are competing with, you know, the urgency of addressing the needs of Black people. And for me, it's like, you know, I'm directly addressing the white progressives who would call themselves allies. Because, you know, I smell fraudulency. Like I smell stuff that looks performative, and it doesn't really have any teeth, or it doesn't have any real endurance to actually get us to a better place in society. Because you have the power, you have the influence. You think that you can just leech off of our culture and stand next to us, but you actually have to make investments. You have to actually make sacrifices to help us get to a better place as a community. If you say you really in this fight with us and for us, which is, you know, the clip that we hear before from, you know, one of the lesser known mothers whose son was gunned down by the police.
Richard Risher, yeah.
Yeah, like Richard Risher was, you know, that's its own situation. You can Google on your own and research. But his mom is making an impassioned plea to say, like, you know, don't get this whole thing confused. Like, it's about money. It's about sponsorships, and it's about brands, and it's about, you know, these kind of power structures that are trying to control the narrative. It's about justice. And justice looks like, you know, actual sacrifice.
That's right.
You feel me? Like, where people are, you're not just kind of communicating these sentiments like, well, how long do we have to deal with this? This is so sad. I lament, I mourn with you, you know, but facts are when it comes time to vote a certain way, or when it comes time to sacrifice of your own lifestyle and your own income, you know, are you willing?
Moving into some of these, areas that are previously populated by
Yes.
Black people.
Yes. The
people of
gentrification conversation, like, what is social investment in families and actual missional ministry that like doesn't put you in front of a camera and make you look like this savior, but it puts you in a humble position. It makes you look like a servant, and people want to pick and choose what that looks like.
Absolutely.
And it came out, man. I was a little ticked off.
I appreciated it.
And it just was what it was.
I appreciate it.
Because we tired of this talk. We tired of it.
Yeah.
You're not activists. You know what I'm saying? We got Black people bearing the weight for, what white protesters do. And the white protesters fade to Black, and then we still got the same conditions that we got to endure.
That's right.
So, I don't think just because you took your kids to a rally that you making a difference because you stood outside because you was tired of quarantine. You know what I'm saying? Now we talking about like these checks that you've been getting from the government, and some people, rightfully so, have kind of they've already imposed their own personal philosophy of reparations. But I'm big on reparations.
Yeah.
I'm big on restitution, because repentance is something that becomes a spiritual work that translates to how you then rectify things that you have done wrong.
That's right.
And that may be generations of wrong, but you actually tangibly calculate the sacrifice and you invest in the solution.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, nah, man, you was close, but you Ben Simmons at the rim, how you choke. And now we all mad at you and your mental health crisis, and we like, yo, you still got to play ball.
You gotta get back in the game.
You got to get in the game. Like, we ain't got time for all of these little whatever things that you feel like you're going through. And shout out to Ben Simmons getting his counseling. I don't even know if it's something wrong with him, but I'm telling you right now, you don't have the support you think you have.
I was about to say.
Like, dog, like people want you to hoop, like you get paid. So
want you to hoop.
Anyway, so that's where we went on that one, man, and I'm glad we did. So what else we got, man? We got next. We have I'll See You Goodbye. Man, we go through some deep places.
This is a very deep. We went from aggression to like there's a level of like lament and process, and we kind of stuck here. Yeah, we kind of stayed, and by stuck I mean like we stayed here for a little bit.
Yeah, we needed to make space for it,
for sure. I mean, because people have lost, you know what I'm saying, like a lot.
Yes, a
lot. People, lost, and you talked about earlier with mortality is something that I think everybody has thought through. Yeah, with quarantine or in quarantine. Yep. Many of us have lost people to COVID. Many of us have lost people before then, during then, like for whatever, for various reasons, you know what I'm saying? I've lost family members, and it's like just the process of it, man. Like we gotta figure it out. Mm-hmm. So you specifically, that is your grandmother that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's my grandma, Leola Wilson. And she was the first person that, upon her transitioning, I had to really like feel it, it's like when everybody goes through this experience, a lot of times, like, you're gauging how deeply it affects you, you know what I'm saying? Because the relationship matters. And I was close with my grandma. And so like her transitioning like really affected me, and it made me think about a lot, you know what I'm saying? And I still think about her, and I still think about, ways that I wish it worked out differently. Like my grandfather, who she was married to, he's still here, and so he's been processing this for over a decade now. Right, so, I got out whatever I could get out. I think I only could muster up 16, because there's certain things I definitely want to talk about on the album as it relates to the deeper element of that. But the fact that you rapped on the part of the beat that you rapped on, like that was the part, bro. Yeah, that was the part.
I appreciate. Well, let me also just end, like, I really appreciate it. There's the thing I love about your writing is that you make these very small references that when you get, it takes somebody 4 or 5 listens to catch what you're saying. It's very quick. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't remember if we got to this part yet, but when you talked about, I just need to stop, like my coach Tom Thibodeau. It's like, why? Like, what? And then you're like, then you get the line. It's like, haha. To me, that's a replay value. But when you just talked about, your grandmother and your mother having mother-daughter dates. I was like, okay, that's a way to process that.
100%.
Is to think about what they're doing because you know they're together. You believe God that they're together. And it's like that little small ode is just beautiful articulation of a very real thing. So, you know, with that, my verse was very much like, I said it from jump. Well. I don't do death well. So you're like, here I am. I'm processing this death. Again, another duality. Yeah. You know, I'm processing this death, and this is where I've landed. This is where I'm at currently. And I'm like, bro, I don't know. I don't know. Which you know, real. I've sat in. I'll never forget. I worked with a guy. You know, he's one of my OGs, one of my spiritual fathers. We also worked together in addition to going to church together. And one of his siblings passed, and I was just sitting in his office, and he was crying. And I was just like, what do I do? Yeah. Like, what am I supposed to say? It's okay. Yeah. I'm sorry for your loss. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do condolences do? Right. In death? And I put myself in that position. It's like, would I want to hear that right now? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And then I even bring up my friend who's my oldest daughter's godfather, who died unexpectedly. And when he died, we were at odds. We were beefing over something really, really petty, really stupid. Yeah, yeah. And there was like this, you know, this opportunity to get it right, and I didn't. Man. It's like, and I think that really impacted me. And when I said I saw his mother, he died, man, like close to 10 years ago, and I saw his mother this summer for the first time. And so when I hugged her, I mean, she was at my daughter's Sweet 16 party, and she was so just out of it, still to this day. Yeah. And that's when I said, you never get over death. You adapt. You adapt. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's crazy.
Loss, we had to address loss, you know, and even if it's unresolved, it's a real feeling, you know what I'm saying? Because there's certain things outside of your control that your body starts to react to.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's one of the humbling things about it, for me at least, is like, you know, there's no willpower that can just make you just push past it all the time. Sometimes you just got to sit with it. Sometimes you just got to black out and, you know, create the boundary to say like, nah, like I just need a moment. Yep. You know what I'm saying? With the curtains closed and, you know.
I got to sulk.
Yeah, fam. Like I'm sad. You know what I'm saying? I'm just sad. And that becomes the pressure of like inviting somebody else into that, is like you feel like you got to do something. And sometimes it's not even about doing something, it's just about being present in a particular way. Yeah. And so, you know, that weight gets put on people when you're sharing grief, or you're trying to be there for a person. Like, you know, is there anything I can do? The questions that come out. And sometimes the answer to that question is so simple, but it doesn't feel like the right answer. Right. You know, it's like, is there anything I could do? Yes, you can give me space. You know what I'm saying? Like that's an answer, and it's a legit answer. Absolutely. Is there anything, you know, I can do? Yeah, man, like, you know, let's go to this event. You know what I'm saying? Like, are you sure, you know, you want me to buy you something to eat? Nah, bro, like I just want to do something normal. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Like that's the answer, you know? A spiritual answer even.
I was going to say that's ministry.
Bruh.
That's ministry.
So it's freeing up that space, but also acknowledging how complicated it is. Yep. So yeah. That's a Snow Allegra joints that you found. Yeah. You good for finding those, bro.
I love Snow. Yeah. I love Snow. She's amazing. I love her I love her last album, but I really love her new album. And I was just listening to it one day, and I was like, oh, I haven't gotten that feeling in a long time. I was like, yo, I want to rap to this. Man. And I found it, and it was there. I was like, oh no, we need to rap to this. I sent it to you, and you were like, no, this works. Easy. Yeah, needed to rap to that. And I'm glad that you picked the topic of loss and mourning and process, because this is perfect.
It's crazy, like in the process of writing, what you get self-conscious of, like, man, are we going too deep and hard? But it could be the sequence of what we're writing to. Like, we've got 3 straight songs of bar, 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 and then you get like, oh, we're in this space now where we're writing these 3 sequential songs. It's just like, man, are we talking too much about this? But then when you step back and see how everything's put together, it's like, oh, I'm glad we got here.
Absolutely.
At this moment.
At this moment.
So it was good. So the next joint is Foam Runners.
And getting into Foam Runners, there's a very intentional TD Jakes clip after that, because we had to breathe.
Yeah.
We had to breathe, and we had to let, we had to let the ministers work. We had to let the pastor work, and we had to let him encourage us.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that is needed and necessary for someone to just affirm you in the Lord and affirm you where you are.
Yep.
Man, you don't look like what you've been through.
Yep.
And it's just like, that's it.
You got the foam runners on.
Yeah. And you got and you know what that is? That is a metaphor for a unique comfortability. Mm-hmm. And that's why I picked that record, is because the foam runners on the surface, people think they're super ugly. Mm-hmm. And they're it's a hard sell for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But when I tell you this summer, that's all I wore, because every time I wore them, the comfort was just so crazy.
Remember I had to sell you on them?
You did, because I was like, no, I'm not wearing them. Like, you crazy? And I put them on, and finally I was like, all right, I'm gonna just try them. And I got a pair. I remember I text you immediately. It was like, I get it,
bro. It's an experience.
It's an experience. So you can talk ugly all you want to, but nah, dog, my feet and my joints feel great.
Man, and it feels good to feel good. Like,
absolutely.
Like you don't have to sacrifice feeling good. Even though you're exploring all these layers, some things are just simple. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So it was important for us to take a step back and reflect and celebrate what God has done, and just ways that we appreciate the way our lives are playing out. So it's good. It was good. Yep. I love the break that Foam Runners gives us. So
breaks a lot. Yep.
We get into OG Bobby Brown. You know. So Foam Runners, real quick, that's Common, Real People.
Yep.
If you want to look for the instrumental, OG Bobby Brown, like that's jukebox joints.
Yeah.
Jukebox joints.
That's A$AP Rocky and Kanye.
Man, the sample, it was a rap from the sample.
So that's a Smokey Robinson sample.
It was a rap from the sample.
Infamously used by Dilla some time ago. Shout out to Elzai on that. But it was I don't know.
I mean, for me, I just wanted to pay homage to the OGs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that, older black men, get a bad rap a lot of times.
1,000,000%.
They get a bad rap.
And they're the greatest species of man to ever exist. Listen, man.
Fam, like because the way they can speak, and we had earlier this year the opportunity to get together and some concentrated conversation with black men.
Yes.
Earlier this year.
Yes.
And the OGs talking is different.
It's different. It's different when they have the comfort, when they have the floor.
Yes.
And they have the comfort, and they realize that it's some young people around.
Yeah.
Because they want to communicate to you.
Yeah.
Like, I can still keep up. I still got it.
Yes.
I know what you've been through. You think I'm disconnected because maybe the way I'm dressed or my slang or whatever. It's like, nah, dog. Like,
some of that's posturing.
Some of that is yes. 100%.
Yeah. Some of that's posturing.
100%.
But what I liked was when we got to the second level, and they weren't looking for our approval in some of the things they were saying. Like, nah, this is what it is.
That's what it is.
And you can try to argue or present, but when you hit that wall, it's just time to sit down and learn.
They're not gonna let you get that off.
Nah, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. So take what you can. And I appreciate that line being drawn, because as we get older, sometimes we engage with people, younger minds, and we got to draw those lines. Yep. Like, fam, I'm not going to get into that with you. That's just something you're going to have to live through.
Yep.
And experience. You got to trust me on the other side that, I know what I'm talking about.
I know what I'm talking about.
And these OGs, they'll hit you with some stuff. Like, one of my favorite accounts to follow on IG is Spice Adams. And whenever he does his older black man, renditions, when he puts on whatever, what is it, Brutini shoes, whatever, yep. Stacey Adams and
Giorgio Brutini.
Yeah. And some high water pants or some high shorts, and he be, at the grill, and he got a big old Bluetooth in his ear. I love those kinds of older black men, because they are totally ad-libbing their entire presentation.
Absolutely.
There's no script, it's just this is what it is, young blood. You don't even know where I'm flowing.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm I don't want to know, but I this is hilarious to experience. And then there's wisdom tucked behind all of that stuff, like these little rhymes and chimes and phrases that they'll say. Is like my dad always used to say, like, "Hey man, you gotta yearn before you learn." I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know. And then years later, I'm like, oh, you have to want to learn before you actually learn.
That's it.
You know. So that's where I was coming from. Is like, man, I want to give peace and homage to the OGs.
Yeah. My favorite thing about old black men is how they can say very little and communicate a lot.
Yes.
Just in your greeting.
Yeah.
All right now.
All right now.
You got it.
You got it.
Try and be like you. And
Come on, man.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to like see that, because that generation of black men, they didn't have access to things like mental health and therapy and process and all these things that we're championing now.
Yes.
You got a lot of those, and I talked about that on I'll See You Goodbye, where like I work in a place where there's a lot of older black men who those emotional ailments have now manifested themselves physically.
Yes, bro.
Where you have back issues and knee issues and, you know, cancers because you didn't process the mistakes that you made in life.
Facts.
And for you to have that experience and still be able to hit me with a, all right now, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And still wear dress socks by choice.
Exactly.
Like, you know, like you choose to put on dress socks every day. Like, you know, that's some social engineering. You know what I'm saying? Like
with everything. I
mean, my God, like you put those on and you like how that felt on your heel and on your shin.
Like they baggy and they don't like.
Nah, there's something special about that. There's something special. It's like how Drake talks about his dad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's really dope. It's really dope to just, even because jukebox joints communicates something about that era as well.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so it was dope to make that space. Ballad of Omar Little.
Rest in peace, Michael K. Williams.
Rest in peace, man. Like that's you know, certain deaths open up conversations, layered conversations about people's internal struggles. You know what I'm saying? And of course, here we are. This is another opportunity for us to tap into a cultural element that, you know, you can post on TMZ that this person died, but at a certain level, you understand what this person means to culture.
Absolutely.
And the character of Omar, what Omar meant to, like, you put me onto the wire. You know what I'm saying? So it's again another introduction to say, like, well, who's Omar Little? It's like, man, if you don't know what The Wire is, this is one of the top shows of all time.
Absolutely. And
the layers of culture that it explores, you know, it invites you in. So yeah, man, like this was at least, you know, this was another just in my feelings, you know, kind of song, like, you know, where I think it's like you get to a point for me, like the book of Ecclesiastes, where you start questioning, like, why everything, you know, what's going on. Like, you know, I'm starting salty. Like, you know, I hate when my verses don't get used, and I wrote this verse.
I realized that I have one of your verses that I have not used from years ago,
bro.
Just one.
And I'm just being honest. Like, you know, I got homies that have, this has all happened like in our creating together, but it means something to me, and I don't forget it. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it makes me question, like, those bigger kind of elements of how I devote my time and energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it's okay. Like I say, and I'm encouraging myself, like, God creates space for me to get these feelings off.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the range of things you can say to God.
Take all the limits off.
The range of things that you can say to God and trust that the relationship is still A1. That's
right.
Is a part of spiritual depth and maturity.
Absolutely.
Because certain things you still wearing fig leaves. I'm not trying to preach. Like, you know, you out here faking and you're not really revealing what it is, and you only heal what you reveal.
That's right.
So, like, therapy has been such a huge component to my life for me to develop language around what I feel.
Absolutely.
And so that's the space for me.
Yeah, I remember, well, first of all, that reminds me of my favorite line of yours from the whole project is when you said on I'll See You Goodbye. You know, nowadays I question what my questions are for. I love that line. So you bringing that up again here. And then also you just got your old black man on because you said you only hear what you reveal. You You did the.
I did. But don't we think about 444? Like, I mean, like
for sure. And you know, when those rappers get in those bags and they talk about things, they say things and phrases that we've heard for years, like in church spaces, and we dismissed them. And then when like a cool rapper says them, now all of a sudden they become Instagram captions.
It's new. It's a new way to process it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's different. Like we was just saying earlier, like you've been in church so much, and church trauma makes you feel like if you say a certain collection of words, you being churchy.
Absolutely.
But then like the broad like application of those words is still valid.
Absolutely.
It's still legit.
Discernment is still discernment.
Yeah.
Demonic is still demonic.
But when you say it, you're triggered and you're thinking about like, man, I can't say this, man. I'm gonna be looking churchy.
I'm gonna be looking churchy and unnecessarily deep, and it's not that serious. It's like, nah, dog, this is discernment. This is demonic. Like, call it for what it is. Yeah. But this is my favorite verse from you on the project, period.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
When you sent this was a record that I was like intimidated to write, because I was like, I gotta go there. Cause you send spaces, you're somebody who like, you know, you set the tone quite a bit, like just in terms of content, pretty consistently on this project. And this was a place that was so nuanced and so layered. It's like, okay, I gotta figure out. This is one of the last verses I wrote but this is one of the first verses you sent. Yeah.
I mean, that beat Finn Balor.
Yeah.
West Side Gun.
West Side Gun. Finn Balor is a wrestler, also known as Prince Devitt. In WWE, used to be in New Japan. And then West Side Gun is like my favorite rapper, one of my favorite just curators of culture, period.
Yes.
Recently was able to meet him like 2 months ago, which was great. I was able to give him his flowers like to his face.
You met him
at a wrestling event. At a
culture.
Coming out by himself. Jules crazy came and walked out by himself.
Yeah.
And I was just able to sit down and just like look him in the eye and tell him like, dog, like you.
Yeah.
Like I need the things that you curate and create. Like that presentation does so much for me and does so much for me in my walk with the Lord. And he has nothing to do with Christianity. Yeah. But I watch him and watch what he does, and I'm like, okay, like this is like, nah, I'll shoot you and then I'm gonna go watch SummerSlam.
I mean, and he was on Donda.
I'm gonna rock these. I'm gonna rock this. He was the first rapper I heard to drop Kith, and you know I love Kith. So like these other spaces where you connect and you're like, fashion. he's one of us. You know what I'm saying? So, so that beat just speaks on different levels. But yeah, man, the just the nuance and the layers of that verse, we could literally go line by line on that record and talk about everything that we talked about. Yes. But it's a beautiful record, and to me, it's like one of the best ways to close the album. Yeah. Or close the project. I keep calling it an album, but like close the project, close the mixtape.
Hey man, let art interpret itself. You know what I'm saying? Like an album, you know, project is like the safe word. Like
for sure. Because then you get into like because then it becomes like the Drake argument was like, well, it's so far gone a classic because it's a mixtape. And it's like, well, no, that's an album, dog.
It's an album. And then what is it if you're reading this, it's too late?
And then that was supposed to be a Gangsta Grills. It's supposed to be a mixtape. But it's like, nah, that's an album.
That's an album. It's all changed. It's all changed.
It's all changed. It's all nuanced. But yeah, I love this. I love this record, Ballad of Omar Little. I love it. It's one of my favorites.
Last record, we land on The Light. Yeah. Another intentional feature, Kalom Montgomery. I'll be honest with you, like I'm looking for inspiration from younger people. Yes. You know, I'm looking for the baton passing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I have stories of a decade plus ago of me and my brother and my homie as a rap group, you know, experiencing Christian rap from platform and developing creative content and life experience. And now I'm OG, you know what I'm saying? And I relish and accept that position. And yet, like when I look behind me and I say like, all right, so who is the one? And not to say that there aren't any young Christian rappers, but for me personally, like I'm very locally focused. Yes. You know what I'm saying? I think about this in the context of my city. And there's a few names that come up that still give me hope. And one of them is Kalom Montgomery. Absolutely. And one of the things that's unique about Kalom is he's very explicit in his gospel presentation. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's beautiful. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like people are trying to like fast track their expression in terms of like, what does it mean to represent Jesus, or, you know, like carry the bloodstained banner and just be like
Doing too much.
Yeah, like just you're trying to like figure out the way to crack the code or plug in the perfect equation. And it's just like, man, just proclaim your faith.
That's it.
Like, do you believe that Jesus Christ is Lord and that his sacrifice on the cross was offered for like the remission and reconciliation of God and men? And, you know, place your faith and your trust in him. And we need to hear messages and music that reinforce that profession. Explicitly. That's like facts. in the vein of worship even.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, explicit expression of worship and adoration of God in a way that like comes natural.
Yes.
Like, it's not contrived. It's not like this thing like, you know, I got to quote this verse. Like, nah, man, I'm like passionately living in such a way where my life is literally directed by the Spirit and I love God. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So like Kalom is one of those people who's unashamed in that way and you know, a pure soul. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The thing I love about Kalom the most is that every time you see him, he's got his head down and he's working. Mm-hmm. He's not really like, he's not really enamored with like the lights of it, the presentation of it. Like, he's not like, if he's itching to get on the stage, I can't tell.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he really just wants to find a unique way, or he's found a unique way to, like you said, share his faith explicitly and creatively. And the nigga can rap.
And the thing about it is, bro, is like we exploring all this subject matter and we talking about language and nuance and all this different stuff. And so then that makes people feel like, oh, you're those Christians who don't want to get too close to the explicit gospel.
We're the rappers that are Christian, not the Christian rappers.
And we don't care.
I don't care. I could care less.
Ah, man.
Because then when you sit down and you listen to the concept of this record, it's about what made us turn our passion for this hip hop culture into a medium, a tool for ministry.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, where were we at in our lives? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so there's no denial of who we represent and how we go about that by the time you hear this record. Like, and all that nuance, all the nuance, all that stuff, like when it comes down to it, like, nah, dog, we love Jesus.
Yes.
And that's it.
And we love that there are younger folks who proudly proclaim the name.
Absolutely.
Like, not trying to tell them to trick or scheme their way to get into some industry representation.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, man, like, nah, when you have a spiritual enthusiasm, we want to encourage that.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And live the season that you're in. You know what I'm saying? Like, experience the beauty of the season that you're in. Encourage the OGs, because like the OGs need encouragement.
Because a lot of the OGs are jaded.
Yeah, man.
They've been beat up by, you know, not only just the industry, but also wrong personal expectations of what this thing was going to produce.
That's right.
So when you get the youngins in, you can't just dump all of your jadedness off on them.
Yes.
You need to take their zeal.
Yes.
And you need to be reminded, you need to look inward and be like, yo, I remember when that was me.
Yes.
Let me make sure that I help as an OG, that I guide them to where, not to where they avoid, you know, the pitfalls, but like they can point them out and then they can avoid them themselves. Or if they do hit a pitfall, that they know how to recover. Yeah. Because a lot of that jadedness is just like cats who hit a pitfall and just didn't recover.
Yep. And there can be pure motives. There can be meaningful fellowship behind all of that understanding of the gospel that you just want to talk about from a passionate place. And, you know, that's still in me. You know, I want to still talk explicitly. I mean, that's the nature of my vocation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like I need to cover all of this in rap content because I literally break down the scriptures every week. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, oh yeah, like this is something that's easy to stand alongside, to encourage. You know what I'm saying? So it's refreshing to have an opportunity to explore this content with Kalom and with you, because it's not something that we have to conjure up. You know what I'm saying? Like just to fit some sort of model of Christianity. Because again, like this is culture. Like this is an expression of walking with God, following Christ that, you know, doesn't often get presented in all of its complication and all of its nuance in like the maturity of content and the layers of understanding. You know what I'm saying? Like it just gets presented in like this prepackaged way as a means to success in some platform that's supposed to put you in a stadium telling everybody about Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
And make you some money when you take care of your family.
Maybe. And that's the reality of it is like, you know, you probably not gonna make a lot of money.
We talked about that season 1 with Trace when he was on.
100%.
Like, you know, like nah, I'm gonna keep this 40-hour-a-week job because
yeah, man,
I got bills and a family and desires that this rap ain't gonna pay.
The thing that you really can take away from this that's beautiful, if you're exploring this kind of artistic vein as a follower of Christ, is community. You know, like you meet real people. You meet like some folks that may become friends for the rest of your life. Like, you know, when we first met, like, you know, I was in a place like spiritually where I was thinking about like how you used hip hop instrumentals. And then fast forward all the way till now.
Now we got 2 tapes together. Right. I was having those conversations with a lot of believers and I didn't understand it. We're like, yo, you know, can we meet up for coffee and you know, I got to ask you some questions. Like, I didn't know what that was back then. And the conversation was always like, all right, so secular beats.
Bro, you was ahead of the game. You was doing a hip hop podcast with a person who doesn't identify as a Christian. And, you know, now that's the thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's you said it in your
what
rhymes.
They say success I was doing in 2010, but wouldn't shuck and jive or
bro.
do other things to be one of them.
Fam.
It is what it is.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the language that we probably stray away from in the sense that's prophetic. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because we've heard the spooky way that people try to say that, but
absolutely.
Unfortunately, in the genre, like the way it's constructed culturally, you can't even say words like prophetic because they think that you're theologically stunted in your growth, you know, because they don't understand it.
Or the extent, and or the extent of your prophecy is houses and cars and you know, marriages and husbands and wives and all that stuff. It's like nah. That's not the office of the prophet at all.
Man. And that's what I love about the journey in and of itself is like it's full circle in a lot of different ways. It never is wasted. Like you can always understand different parts of the journey as it relates to your overall growth.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So I love this project. I'm proud of it, bro.
Yeah, man.
I'm proud of this tape.
I'm glad we did work. It speaks to so many different spaces. I'm proud of it. Like, yo, just thank you for you know, taking this journey with me. I know I said some stuff. I think the best thing that came from this was, you know, I forgot some I said because I said some crazy stuff on this project. And I was just like, and you were talking about like what the response would be and preparing for that. And I was like, yo, man, just put it off on me. Like, I got it. And it wasn't even like, it was me saying like, dog, you don't have to deal with that. I said it. Yeah. And you said, no, you said this, but I'm standing with you.
Yeah.
And that was such a layered statement.
Yep.
The fact that we are together, putting this project out, exploring the subjects that we are on this project together from different lenses, and then coming out of it the way that we came out of it. Like, man, it couldn't have been any better. Yep. The only way it's better is, you know, Black Jordans and White Sox 3.
I mean, and we're Black men, you know, with access to layers of cultural expression and understanding. And I think, like, you know, essentially we're creating a space that a lot of people can gravitate to, and hopefully, like, it frees up people. Like you had kind of a short web series called Free Yourself, and it bleeds into what we're doing in this tape. So, yeah, bro, like, I appreciate the experience, man. Like, I love just being able, man, it's crazy to think that, you know, you got a catalog. You know what I'm saying? Like, what pieces of art did you contribute for consideration, for public view, for public engagement.
Yeah.
And this is one of those pieces of art that, you know, people are going to have to reckon with in some way, because everybody going to be listening. You know, there's going to be people who out here trying to fake and hide.
We see you.
Listen, man, we know that you out here siphoning the culture, and
we know
that you out here stealing ideas, and
this is the start. Like, this is literally this is the pebble that hits the avalanche. If you think that the end game for this was a mixtape, you were sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
The days of you siphoning culture and patronizing it and using it for your own gain without actually being like tapped in and serving yourself, positioning yourself as a resource to help your people or help the people that you are that are tuned into your brand, them days is over.
It's over.
It's over. It's over. I promise you, before the end of next year, it's over. I don't care.
Yeah, it ain't the time for it. So, you know, have fun with all of that. But, you know, really what would be dope of you is to pay respect where it's due. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the expectation that I put on myself, is no matter what, like if it's a worthy contribution to the cause of Christ and the overall shaping of culture, then I'm gonna pay respect. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we have to do better.
Get out my DMs.
Yeah.
Get out my DMs telling me how great I am.
Yeah.
Go tell somebody. Stop it, because you tell other people how great other people are, but you assume because the platform is what it is or what you think it is, that it's not gonna matter, or it's gonna make you look away or whatever if you don't give flowers. Like, nah, dog, them days is over. Them days is over. We gave Trig his flowers, we gave Kalom his flowers. That don't bother us none. That only benefits us. So many people that have helped us with this project and helped us just through this season. Like, nah, I'm giving all my niggas flowers.
Yeah.
All of them. I'm giving complete strangers flowers.
Yes.
Them days are over. I don't get everything directly from God. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I get it from people. Let me shut up, because like, you about to get me in a vein.
We're going to pod on it eventually. We're going to make space for that. But thank you for supporting Black Jordans.
To catch myself.
White socks too. Oh, we have so much more to talk about.
So much more.
And there's more spaces to be created. There's more voices to be heard. So thank you for tuning in and tapping in to where we are today, this moment in 2021. Man, I look forward to what's coming next.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Peace.
I was raised by Lee Gray and the OG was Poppy. My brother May stopped me, and there's only one Aubrey. My lady dressed like Audrey when she work in the garden. Trust me, we gon' finish all that we started.
Right. My newborn greet me in the morning when I wake up. My circle good, it ain't no one that I can't trust. Wife got it locked, she know I don't fool with lace fronts. My family feels protected, that's the goal I can hang from.